Hi, everyone. If you don't know, I'm Ace's father. Yes, everybody knows that, but I decided to give this a shot today. I really want to do this. My son said, please, don't have a funeral. I said, I can't do that, son. I have to have a funeral. He said, please, don't dress up. I said, well, we don't really dress up in our church, but I'm sorry. This is about you. You're my son. I'm going to dress up. I want to honor you. He said, at least have some fun. So I'm going to try to do that. When in 2005, I attended some mandated training. It was given by the agency that I worked for at the time. And I came home after the first day, and I was distraught. I mean, they're talking about white people have advantages and stuff like that. And I mean, I thought, what advantages do I have? You know, the idea of white privilege and all. And I came in the house, went to the back room, and Janet came back and she said, Phil, what's going on? I said, well, I had this training today. I said, I'm not ready to talk about it. So I went the next day, came home. I'd heard a lot more. I wasn't convinced, but I'd heard a lot more. My wife and Asa and I sat around the table because they're both asking, what's going on with you? And so I talked about redlining and all these things that I was learning, and that the idea of white privilege, I just really was not buying into. And they're trying to sell me something. And my son, it was summertime. His skin was very dark. I mean, he could get pretty dark. In a lot of ways, he could get pretty dark. And his hand went down on the table like that. And he said, Dad, you'll never understand because you have a white ass. And I went, well, yeah, I guess that's true. And so this whole conversation started between the two of us. Really, that lasted until he passed. I went back to the training the third day a little more attuned to what I was being asked to accept. Began to see my own white privilege, and often saw it when my son and I were together. We would go to certain places, and one of the things that he liked to joke about white people. He said, how many white people does it take? You know, jokes like that. And he would take those jokes and he would make them happen spontaneously. And he was doing this one day, and I said, how many does it take? And he said, well, we can't find any. They're all at the border building a wall. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good. And he had this sharp sense of what was right and wrong, and that darker people in our community, they could see it. I needed to hear it. And he helped me listen and begin to open and really listen. As a result, I really became a leader in the agency that I was working for at that time, doing that training. I have Asa to thank for that. A challenge happened when my mother-in-law moved into our home. And she was raised on the reservation and had certain ideas about natives and all, and she really hadn't been around our son, and he was still living with us. And one day she says, look, he's 18 now. I mean, he needs to move out. And we said, well, no, he lives here. And she said, well, it's going to be me or him. Just laid it out. And she got on the phone, called her sons. Maybe she could relocate. And they were going, no. You stay with Janet. And so I just told her, I said, he's staying. There's a place that you can live on the other side of the freeway over here if you want to. And she finally said, I guess I'm just going to have to bite my tongue. They became best friends. Best friends. And it was a result of Asa reaching out. And you saw some of the pictures. I mean, she loved him dearly. So that happened, and then we started talking about death because his was imminent, and this happened recently. And, am I saved? What's going to happen to me after I leave the earth? And, I wasn't going to speculate on that because I'm thinking about what's going to happen to me when I leave the earth. And so we're having this discussion, and I said, look, he said, the first thing I'm going to do is connect with Caleb. That's our oldest son that had died back in '98. And he says, I got a lot of questions for him. And then Grandpa and Grandma and so on. And I said, well, as soon as I go, I'm going to look you up. And he said, well, when I get there, I may come back and haunt you. And I said, well, someday I hope to reconnect with you. And he said, white people have to do 100 years purgatory. 100 years purgatory before they get in. Well, that may be. I don't know. But he was that way. And then the last 4 or 5 days of his life, there was not a lot of that going on. And we were privileged to be there when he died. Something that he and I looked at not long before he died comes out of a book by Khalil Gibran. He wrote this book, Jesus, the Son of Man. And so he puts speech into the mouths of different people who are describing their experience with Jesus. And this Persian philosopher talks about the ancient God of Israel, and that God is harsh and relentless, that Israel should have another God. They really need to pick a different God. He talked about Syrian gods. He talks about Persian gods, about Egyptian gods, Greece and Rome and their gods. And then he says, but this man Jesus, this Nazarene, he has spoken of a God too vast to be unlike any man. He has spoken of a God too vast to be unlike any man, too knowing to punish, too loving to remember the sins of his creatures. And this God of the Nazarene shall pass over the threshold of the children of earth, and he shall sit at their hearth. Oh, that's beautiful. And he shall be a blessing within their walls and upon the light upon their path. Thank you.